Warning: this fic contains lesbians, cunnilingus, and light dominance. Viewers' discretion advised. I will be skipping straight to the Clop. Reunion. Cadance grunted as she was pushed onto the large bed, though her breath was stolen a moment later when her lover crawled on top of her, her hooves on either side of Cadance's head and her tongue lolling out. I've been waiting for this all week, Twilight whispered, leaning in to kiss Cadance. All week, she said again and again. All week. Twi, she managed, putting a hoof to the purple pony's fuzzy tummy. Twi, we don't have time for... The words caught in her throat as her lover kissed her and forced her tongue past her teeth. Cadance's groans of protest soon turned into moans of pleasure, and her tongue began to fight back against the invading muscle. And the kiss sent a spark of lightning straight south into her marehood. Twi broke the kiss, and Cadance, without even thinking, whimpered in need. Twilight looked at Cadance with half-lidded eyes, pupils clouded with pent-up desire and lust and need. I can be quick, she whispered, leaning in to kiss Cadance again. Cadance's neck tilted back as she felt her lover begin to nip and suck and lick at the soft skin under her fur. Be quick then, she said, her hooves finding their way around Twilight's neck and rubbing at the back of her head. In response, Twilight pulled back from Cadance's neck and, giving a sensual look, she headed downward. Those eyes, still clouded with lust and desire, along with Twilight's wet tongue, made Cadance moan in lust. It had been far too long since she and Twilight had gone around to do this, and every single lick and kiss her lover gave her sent heat and wetness straight to her core. A hot breath to Cadance's teeth caused her to gasp and writhe on the bed. Her hips bucked of their own accord, and when one of her nipples made contact with Twilight's unsuspecting muzzle, Cadance had to bring a hoof to her mouth to stifle a squeal. It felt so good, so heavenly, so hot. Down, she managed, putting a hoof on her lover's head. She gave a gentle push, and Twilight looked up at her. Please, kiss it. Twi grinned. As you wish, she said, before giving the teeth one last lick. Winking at Cadance, she went just a little bit further down. Cadance's lower lips were sopping wet. It was a bit surprising, actually. Twi had thought that Cadance had at least been able to clop once or twice while she had been gone. However, her lover's eagerness and desperation suggested evidence to the contrary. Twilight took a deep breath of her lover's scent. It was almost overwhelming. She smelled sweet, not like sugar, but like love. How that was possible, Twi didn't even know. All she knew was that she couldn't get enough of it. Eventually, Twilight exhaled against Cadance's marehood, and she grinned as she felt the pink pony underneath her arch up to meet her muzzle. At the last minute, she pulled away, and Cadance's hips seemed to shake in disapproval as she searched for the much-needed contact. Some ponies eager, Twilight teased, bringing one of her wings down to caress the inside of Cadance's thigh. You haven't clopped at all during the past week, have you? She looked up just in time to see Cadance shake her head and glance down at her. She was flushed as she spoke, and she seemed to have trouble finding the words. She took a moment to close her eyes and adjust her body under Twi's weight. I waited to come back to... She was cut off as the purple pony pressed her tongue to Cadance's clit, sending jolts of lust straight to Cadance's brain. Cadance brought her hips up to grind against her lover's muzzle, but once again, Twilight pulled away, leaving her needy and horny and without release. "You want it, don't you?" Twilight asked, and Cadance gulped and nodded, looking pleadingly down at her lover. Say you want it," Twilight commanded, taking a hoof and rubbing around Cadance's mare hood. "I want it." Cadance's voice was little more than a breathless pant. "I can't hear you," Twilight said, removing her hoof and replacing it with her tongue. "You're gonna have to speak up." The purple pony's tongue traced along Cadance's outer lips, going just above her clit and just below her teats. Both were tempting targets, and if she just went a little in either direction, she could bury her muzzle in the sweet heat that was Mi Amore Cadenza. But she wouldn't. As much as she wanted to give Cadance the release she so desperately desired, Twilight wanted to hear her lover call out. She wanted to hear Cadance sing and scream, and so she forced her tongue down the other side of Cadance's marehood, stopping for one moment to lap up a bee of liquid that threatened to fall from her lover. "Please," Cadance whimpered as she ground her hips against the bed. Her hooves were curled up to her chest, and she bit her lower lip. She could feel Twilight breathing and licking against her, and it was driving her mad. "Please what?" Twilight moved away from her lover's marehood, kissing down Cadance's right hind leg, and nipping at the fur as she moved towards the pink hoof. She did not, however, leave her lover wanting, as a purple feathered wing took her tongue's place, running down and around the sides of Cadance's marehood. "Say you want it," Twilight muttered, kissing the bottom of Cadance's hoof before licking along the side. "Say it loud." Summoning all of her stamina, Cadance called out, "I want it!" She breathed as her hips bucked against her lover's wing. Again, louder, Twilight said, moving back up the leg, closer and closer to her target. "I need it," Cadance called out again, louder this time, but still quiet enough that Celestia in the ballroom couldn't hear. "Louder," Twilight commanded. She was close again now, close enough that she could feel the heat pulsing from Cadance. She could smell her lover's need. "Give it to me," Cadance yelled, and Twilight was nearly pushed backward from the force of her lover's use of the royal voice. Then Cadance fell silent, and her hoof fell over her muzzle. Her eyes were pinpricks. Certainly, the whole castle had heard that. And that's exactly what Twilight wanted. In an instant, Cadance's hoof fell down, and she let out a titanic scream as Twilight finally attacked. The purple princess's muzzle flew to its target. Twilight's tongue buried itself in Cadance's eager folds. The younger alicorn felt her lover's walls squeeze around her, eager to milk whatever came through for all it had. So Twilight gave all she had to her, moaning into Cadance. Twilight began to pull her tongue out, before thrusting back in. In and out, in and out. The princess developed a pattern, and every so often she stopped to deliver an electrifying suckle to Cadance's clit. Feeling the older mare shiver underneath her was the best feeling in the world to Twilight Sparkle. Cadance's moans came louder and louder, and it soon became apparent that she was near her climax. Eager to provide for her horny lover, Twilight lit her horn and sent a wave of warmth inside Cadance. The purple pony looked up just in time to see Cadance's face contort in orgasmic bliss. Her muzzle scrunched and her tongue lolled out as her lips curved upward into the most blissful smile, and she screamed Twilight's name. Twilight felt a splash of liquid hit her muzzle as Cadance's walls contracted and her hips ground against her muzzle with all her strength. Cadence's back arched clear off the bed, and powerful pink legs wrapped around Twilight's neck. Cadance saw stars for a precious few seconds. She had barely been aware that she had called Twilight's name out at the top of her lungs. She found she didn't care. As she came off of her high, her legs fell to their sides, and Twilight withdrew herself from in between her legs. Twilight, that was... Cadance gulped in breath after breath of fresh air. Finally, she opened her eyes and looked at her lover. That was... Her voice trailed off as soon as her eyes settled on Twilight. The younger mare was on her knees in front of her. A hoof was stuffed in between her thighs, and her tail flicked rapidly behind her. Her eyes were closed, and grunts of pleasure and efforts made their way through her lips. Twilight, Cadance said again. Eventually, after a needful buck of Twilight's hip, Cadance found the strength to pull herself up and over to her lover. She grabbed Twilight's hoof in her own and pulled it away. As soon as the cold air hit her marehood, Twilight's eyes shot open as she squealed in protest. That is, until she made eye contact with Cadance. Both ponies winked. With sensual gusto, Cadance dove in, exhausted and satisfied as she may have been. The pink pony princess had no intention of leaving her lover on any cloud with a number lower than 9. Twilight's juices flowed freely into her mouth as she felt Twi's walls spasm wildly around her invading tongue. Suddenly, Cadance had an idea. Pulling away from Twilight, she silenced her lover's wanton cries by flipping her body over. She settled on Twilight, her marehood hovering just above her lover's face. Twilight took the cue. A tongue, still covered in Cadance's cum, dug into the pink marehood above it. Cadance returned the favor, pressing her own muzzle into the valley in between Twilight's legs with renewed vigor and need. Both ponies ate each other out, stopping only to breathe or exchange guttural cries of carnal pleasure. Twilight came first. After Cadance pressed her muzzle to the purple pony's clit and suckled, Twilight's back arched and her pussy ground against Cadance's lips as she screamed into her lover's marehood. The juices splattering Cadance's muzzle, combined with the vibrations of Twi's screaming, sent Cadance into the second orgasm of the night. Fresh cum splattered Twilight's muzzle, and Cadance rolled her eyes into the back of her head and continued to ride out her orgasm, grinding against Twilight's tongue again and again, until the waves of pleasure subsided. Eventually, both mares were left panting on top of each other. Cadance managed to summon the stamina to roll off of her lover. And she turned around and cuddled against Twilight's side. Both mares locked eyes. "I love you," Cadance whispered, trailing a hoof along her mare friend's cheeks. "I know I don't say it enough, but she sighed. "Goddess, I've missed you." "I love you too." Twilight smiled. Hey, I'm gonna cut it right here. I mean, the story still goes on afterward, but that's pretty much the end of the Clop bits. I would love to read, the whole story. It's like 3,000 words, and it's really good. You should definitely go give it a read if you haven't. Link in the description. But, I have to keep this under 15 minutes, and, well, I don't feel that I can actually finish it in the minute remaining. And it would be quite awkward just to leave it, halfway, or, well, not halfway. It would feel weird to leave it incomplete. So, I'm just gonna read the Clop bit and cut out the story. Much to my dismay, so to say. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed. And what do you guys feel about me uploading longer videos to another channel in the meantime? since I still love to do them. But, 15 minutes, which is approaching. So, bye!